I'd like to call to order the Cumberland School Committee meeting tonight, Thursday, August 27th, 2026, at 7:07 PM. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Approval of agenda. Can I have a motion to approve the agenda?
Motion approved.
Motion by Ms. Feather, second by Ms. Shea. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? That passes 6-0. Please note for the record that Ms. Smith is absent. Consent agenda. Approval of minutes, regular meeting 8/13/2026, executive session 8/13/2026, special meeting 8/21/2026, school bus inspection report 7/17/2026. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Motion approved.
Motion by Ms. Feather, second by Ms. Shea. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? That passes 6-0. Reporter of executive session meeting. Reporter of executive session meeting on 8/27/2026. Reporter of executive session votes. We had a motion to deny the appeal for a transfer request. This was denied 4-2 with Mr. Bacon and Mr. Dean in the negative. Vote to seal minutes of executive session. Can I have a motion to seal the minutes? Motion by Ms. Feather, second by Ms. Shea. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? That passes 6-0. Personnel announcements, including resignations and appointments. Ms. Drezek?
Hi, good evening. I have four appointments, my apologies, effective 8/24/2026. Hannah Padalano, special educator at McCourt. Diane Silva Pimentel, biology at Cumberland High School, 1 year only. Isaac Rowe, STEM teacher at Cumberland High School. And Rosa Bonificio Sanchez, paraprofessional at BF Norton. We do have one additional coaching appointment of Zeke Murrah Anton, football assistant coach. We have 5 resignations. The first one effective 8/20/26, Casimira Gala, special educator at Garvin. Effective 7/30/2026, Joy Maimoni, MLL teacher at Cumberland High School. Effective 8/17/2026, Taylor Lee, math, grade 7-8 at North Cumberland Middle School, and Charles Patrick West, paraprofessional 1-1 at Garvin. And effective 8/21/2026, Sherry Walker, paraprofessional 1-1 at Cumberland High School. I also have an appointment effective 8/20/2026 of Mr. Christopher LeBlanc, the new principal at Garvin School. He got held up in a little bit of traffic, should be here really soon, and Phil will introduce him during the superintendent's report.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Superintendent's report, Dr. Thornton?
Madam Chair, Mike, go ahead. Take it away. So we had a great opening on Wednesday. Up top, you can see Commissioner Infante Green came to Cumberland. She was very happy to see the high school, especially with the new high school schedule. And she plans to feature the high school on her podcast with the new schedules. That's nice to see. You can see Chris LeBlanc here with Michelle Carter here, our new principal at Garvin, and he's been a great addition to our team. I'll give you a sense of, what we're running right now. We have, as you know, 9 schools, 5 elementaries, 2 middles, a high, and a preschool. 25 full-size buses, 10 minivans, 10 minis, 2 vans, 5,230 kids. That's 96 kids more than last year. So that's a lot of students still coming in. And the commissioner did tell me all around Rhode Island, you're losing enrollment, but we're not losing enrollment here in Cumberland. So that's nice to see. Also, you can see a little under 700 employees. So just in terms of our staffing, we're probably the best staffed we've been in several years. Bonnie, how many openings do we have? We have 1 opening right now, so that's really, really strong for us. Thank you to Ripon for the annual backpack event at Garvin. It was a big success. I want to thank you for all the sponsors. It was a great day, Mike. And now we go on to construction. We have bigger, those are the shots I have. There we go. Thank you. So at North, we're finishing the work in the front vestibule of North Cumberland Middle School. You can see on the far right, with the new code, we had to put a fence on top of the wall at North. Back in the day, that was not the code. Now it is. So you can see a new black fence there, similar to the fence we had at the playground at Community. Inside the elevator shaft is completed, and we're just waiting now for the parts to come in to finish the shaft. Bottom right is interesting. You probably can't blow that up, Mike. we had what I would call an active nuisance in the bottom right. We had an old sidewalk and an old staircase that was not code anymore. So we just got rid of it because it was just a nuisance. So that was great. Allbrook did that at no increased cost. I've been told now, I think we're about 7 to 10 days away from finishing the NCNS project. And as I'm talking, here's our new principal. Come on up, Chris LeBlanc. So Chris has been here for a couple days. Just want to say a few words. Chris, welcome.
Absolutely. You have any questions? I can go. That's too much. I think during the interview, Dr. Thornton, and during orientation, one of the questions they asked, can you guys hear me okay? Is why Cumberland? I think was one of the questions they asked. And, during the interview, wasn't as prepared to answer that. But I think what made me even want to apply or interview, I did not apply or interview anywhere else, was that I think my vision and the district's vision are very much aligned. And that was really important to me, to go to a district that, valued supporting our most significant learners, but also not limiting the rigor of our most highest achieving students. And I think that balance is really important. Sorry, just need a minute, but 2 minutes for a quick story. Yeah, all right. So a year ago, August 27th, 2025, I was sitting in the living room of one of my students who was about to pass away. I was a life skills teacher for years before I became an assistant principal, and she was one of my students for many years. And we were at home and I was sitting with her parents. It was a really tough time because I had left becoming a life skills teacher and I had done 2 years of leadership at the district I was at prior. And I was really just torn. I really wanted to go back to teaching in that moment last year, like a year ago from today. And her parents and her and that story, they said the right things to make sure that I was on the path that I needed to be on. And then last year had a great year, but I knew I was on a journey to somewhere else. And all summer felt the same way. And then it's in my binder over there. The morning before I had the interview, I just had a lot of feelings and I was like, this is going to be it or it's not going to be it. And if you go to my Garvin office right now, there's a picture of Alyssa there right now. I grabbed her picture, my black binder that's over there. I shove it in there and I go in there, and I don't know how I was at the interview or anyone was here, but I felt more like myself during that interview than I had felt that way. It's very relaxed. Felt like just think of her and I'm here for the students. Everything's going to be focused for the students. And I certainly want to make you proud, Dr. Thornton proud, Mrs. Carter proud, but I most want to make Alyssa and her family, Tim and Sherry and Caitlin proud. And over the past week, and from the moment they called me and Bonnie called me, things in life sometimes feel right, and this just feels right. And after the last week and a half, 2 weeks, it feels more right. I can't wait to call her parents after this meeting. Unfortunately, she passed away the next day last year, but I really feel like I can contribute to this community. I think, like I said from the beginning, the vision's aligned, and these last 2 days at Garvin with the kids there has just been amazing. And with that said, I know I have a tremendous amount of support from Michelle Carter and Dr. Thornton. All the elementary principals have reached out to me consistently every day, every hour, and I know that'll continue. So I just wanted to share that and just kind of where I'm coming from. So I will be 100% dedicated to these students, to your community, and my 3 tenets of things that I went through my 2-year principal residency was relationship, kindness, and community. And those have never wavered. They come in all different ways, certainly focus on safety and learning and getting all those things, getting into the weeds on all those things. And as Dr. Thornton said, we don't go after low-lying fruit here at this district. We're going after high achievement. And I think I can have that right balance to supporting both those students and all that. So, yeah.
Great. Thank you very much and welcome aboard.
Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate that.
You can see why we like him. Just a great pickup for us. Mike, next slide. Actually, we have a guest now. So Stephanie is going to give us an update on the special education audit results 2026.
Sure. All right, good evening. Tonight, I'm pleased to share the results of Cumberland's most recent RIDE Special Education School Support Review. Tonight, I'd like to provide a brief overview of the review process, explain what RIDE looked at during this time in our district, share the findings and our areas for continued improvement. Overall, the results were positive, and I think it's just a testament of the hard work of our special education team. Go to the next. Okay, so our last audit was in 2021. RIDE comes out and does an extensive audit every 5 years. So our last one was in 2021. After that review, our district was classified as a level 1, which means that the primary focus of their audit is to look at special education records, documentation, overall our data and district level processes, and just overall compliance with state and federal requirements. The difference between a level 1 and a level 2 is that a level 1, like I mentioned, focuses more on that documentation, records, data, and district level procedures, whereas a level 2 looks at that in practice. It's more of level 1 findings in addition to school-based monitoring. So when RIDE came, it was pretty extensive. They were here for a full week doing the review, and then they took things back to their office to review all of the findings. So one of the pieces they look at is student records. And in the student records, they're looking at evaluations, our eligibility determinations, the IEPs. They're looking through how we as a district write present levels. They're looking at our measurable annual goals and objectives, how we deliver instruction with specially designed instruction. They're looking at our accommodations and modifications, how we progress monitor, and our placement decisions, and making sure that students are placed in their least restrictive environment. They also take into account stakeholder input, where they had us send a survey. So it was to all the general education teachers who service the students of the records they pulled, the special education teachers who service those students, related service providers. If we were a level 2, they do go out into the school setting and they would have interviewed students and families. And then overall, they're looking at our systems and practices as a district. So they're looking at our policies and procedures, how we train our staff and provide professional development, our referral process, our multi-tier system of support intervention systems, transition planning, so, post-secondary goals for our students, how we engage our families, and again, that data collection, progress monitoring, and just overall compliance. So then how they disseminate the findings. So after the extensive review, they take all of the information that they've compiled and they look at the findings, and it's disseminated with compliance findings, which mean that the compliance findings require corrective action, and they look at just results, so areas for continued improvement. So in short, the compliance findings means that this requirement must be corrected. So we have a full year to show how we're correctively making adjustments. And then the areas that are for continued improvement, they're looking at how we're strengthening our practices overall. So overall, our findings were very positive. Like I mentioned from the start, they looked at 21 random records. So that included at all levels, even some of our out-of-district students, our private school students. And out of all of that, there were only a few minor findings identified, and it was related to IEP documentation and procedural compliance. They found no significant concerns overall with the provision of special education services. And the findings were focused specifically on just some specific documentation and procedural requirements. And then just, targeted areas for improvement, but not any programmatic concern. And these were the only 4 findings out of all of that. One IEP in the baseline didn't have quantitative baseline data. And when we looked at that further, It was one of our preschool student IEPs where sometimes it's often hard to have that because we're building the IEP based on only parent feedback and, the child outcome summary. So we don't really have a lot of quantitative data at that time. But that was one area I identified, but again, minor area. One of the IEPs, they found that the objectives weren't measurable. And one just didn't outline the specially designed instruction. And then finally, just the meeting notice, which we found out that is really kind of a system glitch. When you create a meeting invitation in our Aspen system, it automatically populates the date by the date you created the invitation. So if you are creating the invitation the day of the meeting, that's what's going to show. And it's going to show when it prints out that the family didn't get the 10-day notice. However, they did give that notice. It's just what was in the record. So overall, those were the findings. But I owe that to our special education team, our faculty, our staff, the coordinators. So I want to take a moment and recognize them and thank them for all of their hard work and dedication to our students. I think it's very exciting. And like I said, the areas that we do have to continue to improve, we've already done our first professional development day on the 25th, and we did a whole training with special education staff, and it was received well, and they were very proud of the work that was highlighted to us. So,
Thank you very much.
you're welcome.
Great job.
Thank you. Thank you.
All set, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. Next is reports of standing committees, policy and procedure subcommittee update. Ms. Goldstein?
Madam Chair, I don't have an update. We're looking to schedule a meeting in September. Thank you.
Thank you. Fiscal management subcommittee update. Ms. Smith is not here tonight, but we will go over payment of the bills and resolutions later. Achievement and communication subcommittee update. We hope to have a meeting in October. And district health and wellness subcommittee update, Ms. Shea?
Our first meeting will be on September 24th.
Thank you very much. Comments from the public. Are there any comments from the public? If you signed up on that sheet, so how it will work is it will state your name, you'll state your name and address. You'll have 3 minutes to speak, and the committee normally does not respond. So the 3 minutes will be up there so you know where you are if you have any questions. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Lisa O'Connell. I live at 140 Hines Road in Cumberland. I'm here tonight because I'm extremely concerned and honestly very disappointed about the proposed redistricting that would move my children from Garvin Memorial School. When my husband and I brought our home being in Garvin, district was one of the reasons we chose where we live. My family has a long history with Garvin, and I wanted my children to grow up as part of the same community the principal at Garvin just spoke about. This is not about BF Norton being a bad school. I'm sure it has wonderful teachers, students, and families. My concern is that we live less than a mile from Garvin, approximately 0.8 miles. Yet our children will be sent to a school significantly farther from our home. It's about 3.8 miles from my home. This simply does not make sense to me. I also pay close to $9,000 a year for property taxes where I choose to purchase my home, and that property is located in a town where important decisions for my family. I made that investment knowing my children would be part of the Garvin community. I have a first grader and twin boys who will eventually attend elementary school. This doesn't affect just one child, it affects my entire family for years to come. My daughter is being separated from many of her friends she has grown up with who will remain at Garvin. I know what I say tonight may not change the outcome, but I still want you to hear my voice because this is incredibly important to me and my family. I know these concerns have been raised before during the last redistricting process, but this proposal still does not make sense to me. I'm also concerned that this is the only proposed map being presented when the last process included multiple options. I believe families deserve to see the understand and different possibilities before a decision that will affect the children years to come. I'm asking you to please look beyond the lines on a map, look at the actual neighborhoods, the distance from our homes, the families that are being affected, and the communities to our children. I chose my home believing my children would grow up as a part of Garvin community, just as my family did before. I know my 3 minutes may be just a random voice in this room, but it's my voice and I need you to hear it. I live on Hines Road. I can throw a rock to Garvin. I don't want to be raised district, and I don't want my 3 kids to be. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is James Toohey and I live on Millers Brook Drive, currently zoned for Garvin Memorial. My daughter started kindergarten today. And under the new proposed redistricting plan, she would be reassigned to B.F. Norton Elementary. And I'm asking the committee to reconsider the specific boundary decision or a minimum to adopt grandfathering provisions for currently enrolled students. She just started kindergarten. This is the year she's learning how to be a student, how to form friendships, follow classroom routines, trust unfamiliar adults. Interrupting that transition midstream is not a minor inconvenience. The research in early childhood attachment is clear that disrupting these bonds in K-1 is linked to increased anxiety and slower social and literacy development. So again, I'd ask the committee to weigh that cost seriously when deciding which students, if any, should be moved this year. Additionally, based on the state's 24-25 RIDE report card data, Garvin Memorial has a 43.5% ELA of proficiency, 54.6 math proficiency, and 14.4 chronic absenteeism. BF Norton is 31.9 ELA, 37.6 math, and 20.2 chronic absenteeism. That's an 11.6 gap for anybody that is keeping score in reading proficiency, 17-point gap in math proficiency, and 6 additional points of chronic absenteeism. All indicators the state's own accountability system uses to evaluate school performance. Garvin Memorial similarly is 0.9 miles from our home. BF Norton is 2.2 miles away, more than double the distance, and past the school that she could otherwise realistically walk to. I'd ask the committee to weigh proximity and walkability along busing efficiency, since those cut in opposite directions for families like mine. My understanding is this redistricting is being driven substantially by transportation costs and building capacity through districts' work with Transpar. Those are legitimate operational concerns, but I'd ask the committee to confirm publicly that the educational outcomes for the reassigned students were an explicit factor in drawing these lines, and if not, to add that criterion before a final vote. And finally, peer-reviewed research on school redistricting, including a widely cited study on boundary changes from Fayette County, Kentucky, found that homes redistricted from a higher performing to a low performing school saw values decline by 3 to 5%. And this effect can begin showing up in the market as soon as the boundary plan is approved, before it's even
I'm
implemented.
sorry, 3 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Hello, my name, excuse me. Hello, my name is Emily Sinan and I live at 4 Rolling Acres Drive. My 2 children are a part of Cumberland Hill Elementary. I strongly oppose the redistricting that is being proposed to move my children from Cumberland Hill to Ashton. If this is approved, my specific neighborhood of Rolling Acres Drive would be redistricted twice in 6 years. These families have to continue to endure instability and explain that to our children. I live within walking distance, 0.6 miles of the school, and yet I can't request bus transportation until the end of the month. I'm walking and bringing my children to school and adjusting my work schedule to do so, and then now being asked to once again reshuffle their whole routine to be able to move them to a new school. Stability matters, especially in elementary school children. If the district already redistricted within the last few years, repeatedly moving the same families undermines the stabilities that schools are supposed to provide. It affects the emotional development. My daughter has an IEP. It took her 3 years to build confidence and trust with her teachers, and now you'd be forcing her to start all over again. What is that going to do for her emotional development and her learning? If overcrowding in the schools is an issue, what are you considering for alternative solutions rather than redistricting and redisrupting the routine and stabilities of families across Cumberland? Thank you.
Hi, I'm Abigail Hinckley. I live at 2885 Mendon Road. Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to speak here tonight. I'm here as a parent of 2 children representing Cumberland Hill, and as someone who is deeply concerned about how these proposed changes could affect our children. I understand that redistricting is complicated. I understand that there are enrollment numbers, room capacity or classroom capacities, boundaries, and many other factors that come into play here. I also understand that our particular area where we live, right by Rolling Acres, falls into a gray area when it comes to where children should attend school. I think we need to remember that behind every number is a child. These are children who have spent years building friendships, relationships with teachers, and a sense of belonging within their school community. For some of them, such as my own children, this is the only school community they've ever known. What concerns me most is the possibility of asking children to move after they've already become established in their school. I can't imagine telling a child going into the 4th grade that they need to be established at a new school. Leaving behind their friends, their teachers, and the community that they've worked so hard to build. Particularly when speaking for Cumberland Hill, 25 students feels like something that could have potentially been avoided. We've already seen what happens when children are moved at older ages. We've heard tonight about other families who are also experiencing this. And even when the transition ultimately works out, that doesn't mean the impact of that disruption should be dismissed. And I think that there's an important distinction here. As a mother of a child who also has a sensory processing disorder and learning disabilities, moving in the middle of their elementary school career is a nightmare that I don't want to walk through. Thank you.
I hate to be on the spotlight, so you got me here, right? Okay, good evening, members of the school committee. I know drawing these maps is a tough job and you're trying to balance the numbers, but I'm here tonight because looking at students just purely as numbers on a map is about to unintentionally destroy 2 of the most successful academic programs in Cumberland. Going by the costume, I've been the coach for North Cumberland Middle School Science Olympiad team for 3 years, head coach for 2. And as I head into my 4th year, I'm looking at the redistricting map for the middle school, and I see that it's completely gutting our program, or at least affecting it extremely a negative way. Last year, our team won the state championship for the very first time. In fact, this past May, this very committee approved our trip to LA for the internet, so that our students can represent the state in the International Olympiad. That was a massive point of pride for our town. Just a few months later, your proposed map uproots this neighborhood who earned that trip and moving them to McCourt. It's not about just the current champions, it's about the pipeline that we've built here. We have a whole group of 5th graders in our neighborhood who happen to go to community, but they've been looking at their neighbors, getting these awards, getting these recognition, and they've been preparing for this already. We have parents of the current 5th graders who have like a botany expert lined up to volunteer next time. If this map goes through, all of that is gone. Okay, my son has friends in McCourt, part of his Troop 1 Honor Mills. And for the past 2 years, the parents have tried to get McCourt to start a Science Olympiad team. They've just been brushed aside. This is the information that I get from those parents. And they give me the impression that the institutional support simply doesn't exist there. So even if they change their minds and this is not a casual after-school club that you can just restart and start from beginning. It relies on a lot of vertical mentoring from older students, and it relies on thousands of hours of specialized volunteer work. We have 4 parent coaches for North Cumberland, 2 of which are going to be affected by this redistricting to McCourt. We spent countless hours writing custom multi-page test banks for complex topics like epidemiology, thermodynamics, and so on. Beyond that, Personally, I provide my own equipment and kids use my 3D printer at home for making large prints because the printer at school is just not robust enough. It cannot print large parts that they need. We don't have the money to send out and print these parts outside. And so my involvement just doesn't stop at Science Olympiad. For the past few years, I've also been the school liaison and coach for the Rhode Island Science and Engineering Fair. The middle school science fair happens in centrally, not unlike the elementary school science fair.
It's 3 minutes is up. But if you could just state your name and address, I'd appreciate it.
Sri Devanathan from Louis Luther Drive.
Thank you very much.
My name is Benjamin Vaughn. I live at 95 Aberon Valley Road. I am one of the parents of the 5th graders that are in the pipeline for Sri's program. I'm just going to continue his speech. So now it might be tempting to pull Sri aside, offer his son a special waiver to stay at North Cumberland to make the headache go away, but a waiver for one student doesn't change or fix the damage the map does. The waiver doesn't save the 5th graders, my children, who've been studying all year. It doesn't replace the parent volunteers, the custom physics tests, or the fabrication tools that make the team function. We can't run an internationally competing team with one waiver that strands the rest of the kids who've earned this opportunity as well. Finally, there is a very real financial consequence to this map. Building championship teams takes resources. Right now, Sri is facilitating the corporate sponsorships that fund that program. The financial support exists because of the community running the team. If that community is separated, it will unfortunately mean the end of those corporate sponsorships and the funding they provide. Please look carefully at the real world consequences of where you're drawing these lines. You're about to penalize the kids who represented Rhode Island on the international stage. You're costing the district free physical equipment, custom curriculum, hundreds of volunteer hours, and Sri is selling his own work short here by a great measure, and just direct funding. I'm asking you to reconsider this section of the map and keep the academic community together. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Brian. I live on Louise Luther Drive. Before I begin, thank you for letting me speak publicly on this matter of redistricting. Mr. Dean, I'd like to thank you personally for putting the map out on Facebook today so that everybody could see and prepare for this meeting tonight as it wasn't prepared ahead of time. So thank you for that. I am speaking today regarding the redistricting because my children are affected. Mr. Stephanie gave a great point and great speech regarding special education. I've fought 7 years now for a child who has an in-depth, very, very, very in-depth IEP for you guys to be like, well, we're just going to move him to McCourt next year if this goes through. Then guess what? I have to start all over again. Educational studies, this and that. I know you say Cumberland has a great education townwide, and that is true. They do. But RIDE says differently. RIDE says that McCourt is a 2-star school compared to North Cumberland, which is a 5-star school. RIDE says that Garvin Elementary is a 3-star school compared to community. And you guys can't prove that wrong. That's the state. If this is a money-saving, cost-saving measure, there is other ways. You guys just gave a 4% raise to Dr. Thornton, who was just leaving 4 months ago, just abandoning, just saying, I want to go somewhere else. And you did it. There's a cost-saving measure right there. Okay? Not saying he needed it, not saying, I don't know. But if it's a cost-saving measure, maybe we look at that. You guys are cutting special education, doing all these different things, but redistricting's the answer? I don't know that's true. So take a hard look. Every one of these parents who are fighting for their kids, and picture yourself off this board and sitting out here and in our shoes, and tell me how you would feel if your kids are in the middle of. It's tough. It's tough. You would fight just as hard. You'd be just as emotional. So please, please reconsider this. Please keep the parents informed. That is another huge point. We shouldn't be finding out on Facebook. We shouldn't be finding out 4 hours before the meeting. If this is something that you want to do, stop spending money. Take a real hard look at it. How much did it cost for this study? Can anybody tell us? $80,000 to drum from a study for a company that nobody knows. Does anybody know this company that did it? I don't. Please tell me. Please, because $80,000 that could have been saved and put somewhere else to have a study to redistrict. Think about what's going to happen in the future when, okay, we're moving kids now to save seats, to fill seats in other schools. BF having 150 empty seats. And Hope's going to open within the next couple of years. The McNulty building is going to open in the next couple of years.
I'm so sorry, sir. Your
No
time
worries.
expired.
I can have his spot. Thank you.
Sorry. Thank you. Your time has expired.
How are you? My name is Matt O'Brien. I live at 3075 Mendon Road. I have 4 children in the school district, one of which is going to be in JJ McLaughlin in 2 years. I have 3 boys going to JJ McLaughlin. I was just at a baseball game, and all of a sudden all the parents are talking about, hey, you hear about the redistricting, this, that, and the other thing. I guess it was just posted. I had to leave my son's baseball game to go home to prepare for a meeting that seems really last minute. And I didn't even know about the $80,000 that we wasted on some study. So real quick, 4 years ago, my son was allowed on the bus. Then I'm told the next year, no, you live too close. You can't take the bus. So now I got to fight at 12 o'clock at night to send emails for 3 boys that are now in the school just to get on the bus because we live too close to the school that I can't go to. So I guess 4 miles away is more convenient for me. But that first year that they said, oh, it's okay, you can't get on the bus, but we'll give you a bus stop. It was 1.5 miles past the school. So I had to drive past the school to get my kids on the bus. It's insane. Like, this seems even more insane. I have no idea what's going on. All right, with that being said, right? Now we're being told that despite living closer to Cumberland Hill, right? Or JJ McLaughlin, my family who remains there with the 3 boys, we have to go to Ashton. It's extremely inconvenient. My wife walks the kids to school right now because we're not in the bus. We have a baby, right? So going to Ashton makes no sense for us. Literally, when we chose to move to Cumberland, we found our home. And because JJ was so close, we were like, this is perfect for us. And it's been great. But now if we have to move to Ashton, it makes it a real easy decision for us. If we stay in Cumberland, we want to move to Cumberland. Honestly, we want to stay. We don't want to move. I'm asking the committee to reconsider the portion of the plan. Please allow families that live within walking distances of Cumberland Hill or any of the other schools that they're redistricting to stay in the schools that they chose because that's why they moved there in the first place. Stability matters, community matters, and our children matter. So please listen to us. I strongly oppose the redistricting change, and I urge you to keep our boys in Cumberland Hill, please. Thank you.
How you doing? I'm Rob Stanton. I live at 705 Nate Whipple Highway. I'm a little different than these guys. I'm not being redistrict. I have a lot of friends, a lot of family that are, and I believe nobody's looking at the big picture here. Not here tonight to talk about this school's better than this one, these teachers are better than that one. I'm here tonight to explain my opinion that the school committee, as far as I'm concerned, has totally overstepped their powers. This school committee is literally changing the financial demographics of this town. I'd be willing to bet that 95% of Cumberland residents that their largest financial investment they've ever made in their lives are their actual homes. Hundreds of homes overnight will lose their property values. I know we spent $80,000 on this survey to redistrict and draw a few lines on a map, but did anybody speak to realtors, assessors, lawyers about the impacts of these property evaluations? We literally just reevaluated all the properties last year. When you guys asked the town residents to vote on an $85 million school renovation fund, was it public knowledge at the time that you guys were eliminating classrooms in these schools? We literally took away classrooms of these schools. We spent $85 million. We have to pick up we're paying for, we're all paying for, and you guys took away classrooms and now you're yanking these kids out of these schools that they're established in to put them somewhere else. Some may say I'm mean or I'm angry, but I'm talking about math and basic numbers and facts here. Look at how every house is listed on Zillow in the community district. They're literally advertised as blue ribbon community district. That means something. That matters. With this economy and the cost of living like it is, you guys are putting another financial burden on these Cumberland residents. How about the hundreds of new units being built in South Cumberland over the next few years? Do we have a plan for that? Are we gonna start sending kids to Central Falls High School next? I just don't get it. If you look at some of the houses with the same square footage, same lot size, same beds and same baths, there is no arguing the facts and the numbers, different price between different locations and school districts. Why punish somebody who paid more money, went out on a limb, maybe taking a chance to buy in a different area of the same town? A great friend of mine's son, who's a great friend of mine's in 7th grade at North right now. This poor kid's gonna be forced to go to his last year of middle school, next year to South and start over. How healthy can this really be for a 12-year-old boy? I want to thank Jason and Andrew. I feel like this whole meeting was gonna kind of get swept under the rug. You guys keep everything top secret. These guys had no chance to prep for this. Like, this is major. How can we find out a couple hours before? And I know you guys can't say anything. It's kind of ridiculous. I don't understand how nobody can ask questions. To me, it's absurd. And again, I have no stake in this.
I'm so sorry. Your
Eh,
time
eh,
expired.
Okay, I'm so sorry too. Thank you.
Timothy Godfrey. I'm not on it. My name.
You know,
Hi, my name is David Rodoni. I live at 5 Blackberry Bluff in Cumberland. I have 4 children, a 4-year-old, or 2 4-year-olds who will be entering into Ashton School next year. I have a 9-year-old who is a 4th grader and a 6-year-old who is going into 2nd grade this year. One of my main concerns is not that redistricting is happening. I understand the reason that it is occurring, right? The problem is the cloak and dagger nature that it is occurring. We, as a community, were not prepared because we were not given the ability to be prepared. Less than 24 hours, I found out at a soccer meeting today because the concerned Cumberland parents group didn't. There's no news in Valley Breeze that lets us understand. There was no release of methodology, no release of requirements, no parameters that were created. We have no ability to find this to be compelling. It reeks of favoritism because when I look at the map, I say, why is this community being affected when this one isn't? We don't have any way to understand the decisions. So we are just going to show the anger of our frustration, right? We have no ability to understand. So as leaders of our community, it is on you to remove that, to demystify the process. Otherwise, every single meeting that we have here is going to become more and more and more contentious. As an affected party, I do desire to stay at Ashton. It is our school. We've built a community there. But if it's necessary because there is a compelling reason, we have the maturity to allow that to occur. My children will be heartbroken when telling my kids I had to leave dinner early to get to a meeting tonight. There were already tears about not wanting to leave their school. So what we need is far more open communication. Otherwise, all we're going to see is the cloak and dagger. Thanks.
Good evening, everyone. I'll be completely transparent with you. I am wholly unprepared for this. Like we've already heard, and I know I won't have arguments that haven't already been stated over and over again. But as the first woman who spoke and mother spoke said, it's important that you hear all of our voices tonight. I represent Community School in Genoway. I live at 24 Genoway with my family. I have 2 children. We moved to Genoway from another area of Cumberland in 2019, expecting our first child. Beyond thrilled to learn how amazing Community School District just was and continues to be. And we continue to be thrilled and proud of that. My daughter started first grade yesterday, and my son started kindergarten today. I am heartbroken, stressed beyond measure, as all of these other parents are. It's the first week of school, but it is his first day of school. And half an hour before I picked him up, I had to change our routine this evening so that I could be here, because this is what's important for their future. And that compelling obligation is what all of these other faces in this audience are telling you tonight, that this is important, that this feels rushed, it feels uninformed. It's unacceptable how this was presented to us with so little notice. I don't know how we could prepare. I have spent a lot of time establishing our family and my personal engagement level at Community School, juggling work and caregiving in an extremely busy family life so that I could be involved with the school, develop relationships there, make sure that my kids are developing relationships in and around the community neighborhood, in our neighborhood. And we have been so happy to know that the friends, neighbors, faculty, administration at that school are beyond anything we could have ever expected. They are our second home and they are family. And why we would even imagine to tear our existing families and enrollees from their schools, from any of our schools, makes very little sense. It's not a line on a map. It is our children's development, social, academic, emotional. It is irresponsible to think that this is a change that's going to come with such quickness. So I would ask the committee to firmly reconsider, hear the voices that are speaking tonight, give us an opportunity to comment, to question. I do have a question on behalf of our neighbors that hopefully eventually the committee can answer, which is where can questions be directed for individuals that cannot attend tonight? I thank you for listening, and I strongly hope you'll reconsider for our children.
Any other oh.
I wasn't even going to speak, but I think it needs to be said that every single person that did speak is an address and a family that's being affected. I don't think it's fair that we just rip kids out of school mid-school year next year. They've started their schools first, second, third grade, then they're going to switch classes in schools. It's just not fair. We ought to be ashamed of ourselves that we're in this position, I think. Everybody here fought for their address and they'd like to keep it that way with the school board. I bought my house based on blue ribbon schools. 5-star school, going to be redistricted to a 3. Oh, and a 2. It's piss poor. And it needs to be said that this is unacceptable.
Sir, can you please state your name and address for the record? Can you just state your name and address for the record?
Timothy Goslin, 23 Luis Luther Drive.
Thank you. Any other public comment? All right, so the next is old business. Oh, I'm so sorry.
To be laughed.
Oh,
Sorry, I'm kidding.
I mean, I'm not gonna top that. I want to thank everyone that spoke. I think there's nothing else that I can say that hasn't been said before. Last year we moved one street over from where we previously lived, just so that our kids could stay in the same school. I know that there's a lot that goes into these decisions. I would just like the school committee to consider the impact that this particular change could have on students who would have to move. I'm not going to make this about my family. I think everybody has their own personal feelings about this and emotionality, but I'm just asking the committee to
you make the decisions, you continue to look at the students that are behind these numbers and these boundaries that are placed on this map. If opportunity is to reconsider boundaries, grandfather students who are already enrolled, provide exceptions for siblings, or identify other ways to minimize the number of students who have to leave their school communities, I would strongly encourage the committee to explore these options. Thank you.
Can you just state your name?
Megan Menard, 123 Terrace Ave.
Thank you so much. Okay. Old business, I'm gonna give a little history.
Christine DeLello, 15 Buckboard Drive. I'm in an address that is affected by both the middle school map as well as the elementary map. I currently have a student at the high school and a first grader at Garvin. I think I can't say it better than any of the other parents here, but I'm very, very touched by the passion. Pretty much brought me to tears immediately. What I want to know is more information. I want not a pixelated map that somebody sent me from Facebook. I want to understand the information behind the study, the rollout, the timeline. Like Megan said, is there opportunity for grandfathering of students? Can this transition happen with a kindergarten class? Where can we direct questions? Where can we have more clarity and information to the parents so that we can decipher this information intelligently and then come back with meaningful comments for consideration? Another parent said, the only thing that you can hear from us right now is emotion because you're getting reaction. What we need to do is be able to have a proactive response. And at this point, we've not been able, the opportunity to do that. So please, I'm begging this board. I'm from upstate New York. My dad was president of the school board for 20 years in Shenandoah and Clifton Park, New York. I know the immense pressure that school boards see, but I am begging that we have more communication so that more parents can be informed and make wise decisions and make very clear and intelligent comments for you all to absorb and consider. And I mean, just emotionally, I would be very devastated if my child was not at Garvin next year, but that is the emotional note that I will leave you with. And thank you for taking our comments.
Hi, I'm Venus. I live in 5 Corey Lane, Cumberland. I have 2 kids. One goes to NCMS and the other goes to community. I don't want to make it or speak about my specific family. All I want to say is that, the gentleman who represents the Science Olympiad in NCMS, he was commenting about the talent we have at middle school and community as well as elementary school. I would not like to move my daughter from NCMS to McCord because of the school ratings, because of the standards or whatever impression that school has. Many of these parents maybe can afford private school, maybe they can afford charter school, but then Cumberland School Department will also lose some talent which could stick with community as well as NCMS. Please don't give an opportunity to lose that talent to a private or a charter school. Please give them opportunity to grow and flourish in the schools they are in. With the teachers, with the activities, with the board they are working with. That is all I have to say. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Catherine Walker. I live at 4 North Hereford Drive, and my kids currently go to community school. I don't public speak usually, so nervous about this, but I have a specific situation where I share kids with my friend Julie Gorski, and she lives at 4 Hayfield Drive, and we work opposite schedules. We share the bus stop together. My kids don't even go to the bus stop that they're supposed to because I have them get on the bus at Barn and Lonesome Pine, and they're gonna stay at community. We're districted for Garvin, and I don't know how we've arranged our whole lives around helping each other, and I just don't know how this is going to work. So I didn't know if there's an exception process or how I go about doing that. They won't answer. Okay. I'm Okay. So nobody, there's no process for, or no proper channel to go through to change anything? Exactly, yes. I just found out about this and now I would like to make an appeal, but let me know how that's done, please. Thank you.
So I just want to give a little bit of history on regarding this, just so you guys, we all have the same information. So before you, sorry. So back in, I want to say 22, 23 was the first redistricting. And at that moment, during that tenure,
Yep, because I was here.
we had talked about when BF Norton comes online, we were going to be redistricting for the 27, 28 year. With community being a 4-track school, meaning 4 kindergarten, for 4 first, 4 second, Ashton, Cumberland Hill, and Garvin being 3-track schools, 3 of each grade, and then BF Norton being a 4-track school, 4 of each grade. At that moment, the shift is the way kind of the shift is going. Last year in 2025, excuse me if I have the dates wrong and just interject, we decided to get a consultant, that's a national consultant that does this throughout the whole country, in order to provide information and maps that would help us make a decision. We've had a subcommittee on it, and now we're bringing that forward to you. Today is the first preliminary meeting in draft. We're gonna have this on our school committee meetings. Every meeting, or at least once a month, up until our decision is normally around in the February, March timeframe of 2027. So this is the first draft that we actually received today. That was in our drive this morning. And we are actually discussing it tonight under old business, which was the agenda you're talking about. However, this is just the first meeting of multiple meetings up until February or March of 2027. So I don't know if that helps with some of the questions that were asked. So the other thing I'm going to try to answer as much as I can from the information that I received. In the previous redistricting, one thing that was done was anyone that was in 5th grade, which I assume is rising 5th grader or rising 8th grader, so it's that summer before they go, they were all allowed to stay in their school that they were in previous.
No.
We do not, so you don't provide transportation because there's no bus going that way. But just so they did allow the rising 5th, and I would assume then 8th graders, because at that time, middle schools were not redistricted. This is the redistrict for the middle school as well. I'm trying to think of what else I heard that I wrote down. Also, it has been on the agenda, and I understand we're all so busy. I totally get it. There's a lot that comes at us. Some have kindergartners, some have 1st grade. You weren't looking at this back then. And I understand that you seeing it on social media probably was like, oh my gosh, it's happening tonight. That's it. No, this is a very long process. No, it's so if you go to so I do this my own world. Go to Secretary of State's and I get agendas all the time for different towns and cities, and you can sign up and get every agenda sent to you. We have to post them 48 hours in advance. So that's the agenda right here. And then in our public drive, so I do this for multiple towns and cities, but it is helpful to have that. So it comes right to your email, normally on 2 to 3 days before the actual meeting occurs. And then you just go in, and there's a public drive that we have at Cumberland, and everyone can go on it, that you just go in and find. But if you have questions regarding the public drive, we can help you through that. That's where all this information is, and it's open to everyone sitting in this audience. Because public comment comes, so that's a great question. I don't know if I'm supposed to talk to them, but.
The lawyer's making out.
Okay, sorry. Comments from the public, if you look at the agenda, comes before old business. So we would not have talked about this topic until we got to that part of the agenda. We haven't gotten to that part of the agenda because comments from the public came before it. So I'm going to stop talking to you all to answer questions. I just want to give information in order to provide as much accurate information as we have right now. So with that,
Item.
okay, one second, please. Yes.
If people do have questions, they can email my office with the questions, or also call or also you can.
Excuse me, sir.
call my cell phone
All right.
or text me. It's 401-996-4247.
I can't take any more questions. I've really outdid myself on that one. If there is more public comment is still not over. I just want to get everyone up to date, even though we're gonna be going on to old business next on the agenda. So if any more public comment, please come up to the podium. Any questions you do have, emails are on the website, on the Cumberland School District website of phone numbers, so.
Coney, 51 Luis Luther Drive. It's been a while since I've been on one of these things. Last time was 2006. I was 16 years old, trying to keep the Pawtucket School Department from cutting funding to all of high school sports. And today was my kid's first day of kindergarten, and here I am. Just like many of these guys, I found out about this on my way home from work. I just want to voice some frustration that, you know, my wife and I, we worked our butts off to move to Cumberland and go to have our kids have a better education than we had. It's just really frustrating that, you know, my kid's first day of kindergarten, he gets on the bus, he's terrified. He comes home, he's all excited. Loved his first day at school. Loved his teacher, Miss Ross. He was absolutely over the moon, and we couldn't be grateful for community and the school that they provide. Only to find out that we're going to be redistricted and pretty much upended, even though we just begun. But damn it, we worked so hard to get out of Pawtucket and get out of that school district to come to Cumberland. That's about all I have. Thank you.
Okay, I'm Jean Zantis from Louise Luther Drive, also not prepared, but I think you're seeing a lot of the passion and the freaking out because the schools, because of the 2-star school at McCourt. So my question is, if it's gonna happen anyway, which I hope it doesn't, I have 2 high school students and a community school student. But where I work in another district, it usually happens anyway, despite the meetings. I guess my question is more, what is the plan gonna be to make McCourt Middle School better? Because when I hear my kids, sorry, I'm also like shaky because I'm not used to this and wasn't expecting it. When I hear other parents on the soccer sideline or whatnot, and they're telling stories about what happens at their kids' middle school, with fights and police being brought in, or classrooms that don't have teachers, or a school that doesn't have a principal, or people teaching out of their content area, things like that. And then we see it's ranked as a 2-star school. That makes me scared of it. I don't want my 4th grader to go to a place like that. If it's going to happen anyway, what are we going to do to make it better? So I did look up the discrepancy in RICAS scores, and from 2025, McCourt had in reading 48% proficient, while North Cumberland had 67%, 18% higher achievement at North Cumberland. In math, we have 37% proficient in McCourt for math, 66 for North Cumberland, 28% superior achievement at North Cumberland. And for next generation science standards, 32% proficient at McCourt, 65% proficient at North Cumberland, a 33 percentage point advantage for North Cumberland. No human or kid is better than anybody else. I know the teachers are wonderful everywhere. Like I said, I'm a teacher in another district. I just want to also focus on how are we going to make that school higher achieving if it's going to happen anyway. That's the reason I'm freaking out, and probably a lot of my neighbors are as well. Thank you. Yeah.
I don't have anything prepared either. My name is Kristen Moffett. I do not live on Luis, whatever. I am, because apparently everybody is here. I live on Rolling Acres. My, okay. My oldest was redistricted after kindergarten, and it was really hard having to tell her that she can't see her friends. Having to do that to my younger one who's about to go into 4th grade next year is going to be even more heartbreaking because she's had 4 years there. I can't imagine what some of these people are going through. And honestly, I'm so sorry. I'm just like so unprepared, but it upsets me a lot because, like that man said earlier, if any of you were here, you'd be just as upset and frustrated as we are and thrown for a loop. I've gone through this redistricting. We've had friends go through it. It's hard on our kids. They need structure and they need to have a consistency in their life. And school is one of those for a lot of people. I mean, we have a nice household, but we don't know what everybody else goes through. That kid might have their safe space at that school. And hearing that some of them are taking out of this or being moved away from their friends who they've been with for 5, 6 years, that is something that is incredibly emotionally and developmentally detrimental to these children. If it comes down to transportation, I'll drive my kid. I'm like a mile away. If that's what you want to keep my kid at that school, I will drive her. If there's no space, I'm a kid from the 90s, put a trailer. We all did it. We're fine. Like, I'm emotionally a wreck right now, but I'm fine. We had those things. We have rebuilt these schools knowing that there's all these housing and apartments going in, knowing that there wasn't any room, and we haven't done anything to make it bigger. It's not going to get any easier because there's more families moving in. Cumberland's a great town. It's a great school district. I don't want to move anywhere else, and I don't want my friends to move anywhere else. We chose this place because it's our house is stunning, but it was a good school district and I liked it. And the community that we have at Cumberland Hill is just unmatched. It's absolutely amazing what they do at that school and how they make my kids feel. I understand that this isn't the end all be all in this meeting, but if you want suggestions, I'm pretty sure all of us can give you 10 right now. So if you want to take notes on what to do, like, just ask us. We've clearly all been through this.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, so my name is Marcio Martins. I live at 8 Heinz Farm Drive. I just found out about this redistrict same time at the soccer game. And, you know, I brought my daughter in here, both my daughters in here. 6-year-old, she's at Garvin. My 9-month-old didn't really give me a lot of time to prepare for this. You know, luckily my in-law could take care, so my wife had to go bring her over there and come back. But my biggest concern is I'm just worried about property values. So, you know, there's a house, you know, in Cumberland that's been for sale forever, close to $2 million. No one wants to buy it, right? My home, like in my area, Millers Brook, Heinz Farm Drive, higher property values, more difficult to sell. A lot of families look for certain school districts to bring their school to. So one of my concerns is, you know, if I have to sell my house in the future, how difficult is that going to be? So now it's might bring down my property value a little bit. And it's literally 0.7 miles away from my home, from Garvin. So it just really doesn't make any sense. I don't know why they didn't bring like Garvin, like make it expand it a little bit more to make sense, because difficult. I understand it's difficult trying to make sense of redistricting, but one thing's, I don't know if the system that's getting used to make sense of all these borderlines, are they factoring in, how, like, sellability of houses in the future? Because in some areas it can affect more than others. And again, it just, again, I'm in the Heinz Farm Drive area, Miller's Brook, Susan Drive. It just, just gonna cause a big impacts for a lot of families, later on, if they want to sell their homes, it's could be more difficult in the future. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Livesley. I live at 33 Millers Brook Drive. Like the last woman that spoke, I don't think this is up for negotiation, to be honest. I think these lines are drawn and I don't anticipate them changing. When I moved to this town, my husband and I did not have children. And when we bought our home, when I was younger, went to private school. I've never been in a public school. And I always felt disconnected from the people in my town because I went to school much farther away than they did. And so when my husband and I bought in Cumberland, we heard it was a good school system. We were really excited to be putting our daughter into the public school system. When it was not too long after we moved, when I told somebody where I lived, they said, well, you're in the south side of Cumberland. So basically I was not going to get a good education for my child. Currently she's at Garvin and she's doing very well and she's thriving. And it's something we're going to take year by year. It's possible that we move her to a private school down the line. What I want to say is that if this is going to happen, which I feel it is going to happen, we need to work hard to make these schools better, right? It shouldn't be that North Cumberland is a 5 middle school and McCourt, you said a 2 or a 3. That should not be a disparity. I live in Millers Brook, and I don't know if anybody knows that community, but the homes in that community are very expensive. And we probably pay one of the highest tax rates in the town, probably higher than even people on the north side of Cumberland. And so what I'm standing here to say is, I think echoing what the woman prior to Marcio was mentioning, how are we going to make all of these schools better? That is my goal because I want to keep my daughter in the public school system and I don't want to have to send her to private school. Thank you.
Any other public comment?
Okay.
Jason Dean, 150 Staples Road, Cumberland. Let me ask you a question. How many of you people saw this on Facebook? How many of you people saw this on the Secretary of State's website in the agenda section? One, yeah, right? I was asked when this was going on, am I happy? And I'm going to answer, I was accused, and I'm going to take the doubt out. I am happy. I'm happy you people are here to defend yourselves and about this. I was accused that that everyone here was uninformed and didn't know what was happening, didn't know that this was next year. I just put the agenda on Facebook, right? I just inform people, let you know, put the map out there. The map is not on the Secretary of State's website. It's just the agenda. You wouldn't have seen the map. It wouldn't have rallied people to come, For me to put this information out and get crap for it, I think is ridiculous. I'm going to keep doing it. So don't go to the Secretary of State's website. All right, go on Facebook because it'll be there. You know why? Because 99% of the time this room is empty, right? And the things that happen in this room that I disagree with happen with nobody knowing. The parental rights being taken away for the Title IX bullcrap that happened in an empty room. Well, they didn't. It ended up being a room of people that were against me because I posted it on Facebook. Sometimes you take the good with the bad. But we need you guys in the seats. You pay for this school. Your kids go to these schools. These schools are for you guys, right? Your attendance here matters. Your participation here matters. And more importantly, your vote matters. So get out there and vote.
I think it's one public comment per person. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Even if it is a different topic, but we'll be back in 2 weeks.
Hi, my name is Hui Tao. I live on 8 North Hereford Drive. It's going to be a tough show to follow with Jason, but I just want to point out, looking at the number of students, families that's going to be affected by this, I don't think you're going to get any happy family, because when me and my wife looked for homes, it took us over 2 years because we want the best for our kids. And so I don't think you guys should be making decision and reversing the decision we made without giving us due notice. And I understand that you gave us that this is just an introduction to this topic. And so we'll have this discussion, but I don't want to be changing schools, moving to different homes. But the sound of this is you guys are trying to save money, but you guys going to cause family to make hard decision and move. And so whatever money you think you're going to save, you guys could lose just because families are going to be like, if I was going from Ashland to community, I don't think that's the case, or like to Garvin, then you go move some kids from Garvin to BF Norton. You're literally just moving kids around like musical chairs. That's what it looks like. Like there's no, like from what we see, there's no rhyme or reason why you're doing things. And I understand that I'm hoping that you guys are going to support your case while you're making these decisions. But from what I see, it's just like our kids are literally being hot potato from one school to another. And I don't know why. And that's the frustrating thing. And the worst case is I didn't even learn this myself. I had to learn from other parents who barely knew of what's going on. And so I had even less notice than some other parents here. So I would really want to make sure that you guys do your job that we elected and we bestow to you, and that you guys give us the opportunity to voice our opinions and or like the toughest thing is having someone else make a decision about your kids' education and life. So thank you for your time.
Any other public comment?
My name is Daisy Mirzai. I live at 7 Angus Drive, and it affects 2 of my children. One that is at community and one who is at North Cumberland Middle School currently. My daughter Aria is a 7th grader and my daughter Lily is a 4th grader. So they will be both rising next year. To say that I am terribly upset is an understatement. I feel like I was blindsided when I saw and heard from other parents what was going on. You having the audacity to say, check this website is absurd. I am a working mom. My husband works. I don't have time to check a website to know that my children are safe. I bought my home here in Cumberland simply because of the reason it was in the community district. That is why, even before I had children, and I want to remain there for my daughters. For you to treat my daughter like a number is unheard of. I worked as a school nurse. I knew every single child's name. They were not a number. These are children. These are human beings. They have feelings, and it's our job to educate them. It's not about whether Garvin is the better school, community is the better school, BF Norton is the better school. It's not about that. It's about the communities that we have been brought up in, that we're currently bringing up our children in. Our children rely on all of us to be there. I see some of my neighbors here. I rely on them. I work as a nurse. I serve the public. I serve the community. My husband is a pharmacist. He also serves the community. That community relies on us to do our job. We rely on you to do your job to protect our children. This is the reason why the school committee exists. So don't give me that bull crap that check the website. I'm college educated. Do not treat all of us like idiots. You are messing around with our children. And for that, I don't stand for it.
Any? Nope.
My name is Marie Tui. I live at 35 Forestdale Drive. And I've been through all of this before with my children 30 years ago. And now my granddaughter's going through it. And I don't like to see it. I have a question though. I'd like to know who put the bid out for whatever we got. Who put that bid process together? What was the idea? Was it to blend? Was there an answer B, C, D? This is the only request that you got? Who put that bid process together? Who did this idea of, we're just going to cut this line right here? Who did that? Nobody knows. Do you know? We don't know. Who put this process together? Somebody must have been told to do this and put this process together, but there should also be another idea, a backup plan. Maybe not go into it full blown, the first process. Let's see process A, let's see process B. How about the third one? You paid $80,000, you should be able to get something for that bid. I think there's something more that needs to be looked at. I had this problem 30 years ago when Cumberland was growing. Now it's back again. But you also get a 5-year plan. You knew this was coming down the line. This isn't the first thing that comes up. You knew about it. It's a big deal for everybody. All these people here have busy lives, and they're here tonight to find out this information. I think we need to do a better job on helping get that information out between the school, between the newspapers, between everything, so that people can make an informed decision on their council people, on their school representatives, on everything. These decisions are important to them. They're important to everyone in this room. And it's ridiculous just to make these decisions on a whim. I think there needs to be more thought involved. And I think you need to look at that bid again and say, you know, maybe there's something else there that we could do to blend this in, not just go cold turkey here. Blend this into a process where it's not so difficult on these families. Thank you. Thank you for your time.
Any other public comment? All right. Next on the agenda is old business, Transpar update regarding transportation efficiency redistricting study. Dr. Thornton?
Madam Chair, while we're getting the transfer folks on the Zoom, just a few thoughts. I know someone asked the why are we doing this? As you heard us say, this meeting and past meetings, Cumberland's one of the few towns gaining kids. It's, I think there are 3 towns in Rhode Island, we're one of them. And even with our new construction additions, we can't keep up with the growth. I'll give you an example. The new Garvin should hold around 432 kids, give or take. We're at 470. We can't keep up with the growth. So the why is, can Transpar take the Cumberland map, the pizza wedge, and push down the enrollment to fill from the bottom up and balance the schools? In most districts, you'll see a shift in boundaries every 5 to 10 years. It's just what happens, but it's happening. The growth is happening so fast in Cumberland, we have to react to it. That's the why. So Transpar tonight has been here a few times, and they're going to talk a little bit first about the earlier work around bell times. We talked about it last meeting, but then really the big part of the meeting is the map. There was no intention to hide the ball on the map. It was put in the drives Thursday morning, and we're going to talk about this every meeting until the winter time. And like I said earlier, I'm happy to meet with any one of you. in my office or call me or come see me. We're not trying to hide anything. It's math, numbers, and balancing the schools. In doing this, also I would add, there's no real scheme to save money here. It's balancing. If we have a brand new BF Norton that can hold 575 kids, and we're currently around 380, give or take, we can't leave that building, a little more than half full. That makes no sense whatsoever. The growth is happening. You mentioned earlier, in Hope, in those places. It's tricky with the growth. When I go to the meetings a lot at the town council and the town review team, in Hope, they're only slated they told us to give us like 9 kids from in Hope. I don't know if I believe that personally, but that's what we're told. So
He didn't interrupt you while you were talking, so let him speak as well, please. Excuse me, but he didn't do that. No, listen.
my only point is we are mindful of the growth and all the condos being built, all those things. Our challenge is how do we keep up with the growth and balance the buildings? That's the issue. For the middle schools, if I can finish, for the middle schools, that's been talked about since 2010. They're way out of balance. Right now, if you grade 6 and grade 8 north are full. If you move there, you can't go there. It's too full. We're looking to pull around 60-ish kids from north to McCourt to give breathing room. It's just the numbers. So with that, I'll be quiet. Chris, are you on?
Yes, I am. Good evening, everyone.
Chris, are you there?
I am. Can you guys hear me? Oh, can you guys hear me? Are you guys able to hear me?
Chris, can you hear me?
I can hear you guys. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. All right, folks. My name is Chris Barf. I've also got Mr. Michael Archer with us this evening as well. I want to quickly run through a quick discussion about some bell times and modifying those before handing the mic over to Mr. Archer to discuss the redistricting component of our work with Cumberland. So I'm going to run through this fairly quickly, given that this was all discussed in the previous committee meeting. And that way we provide Mr. Archer with enough time to kind of run through that redistricting component. So currently, the system uses around 33 vehicles at peak time. And what's important to note is between your first and
Is there
second.
any way, Mike, I'm so sorry. Is there any way we can make him louder? All right. All right, thank you.
Any better now, guys?
Hey, Chris.
Any better? Can you guys hear me?
Keep go ahead and keep speaking.
Can you guys hear me? Any better now, folks?
Go ahead.
All right. So what's important to note is the differences between timing between our first and second, so that high school to middle school, the second and third tiers between the middle school and elementary, and then the final elementary to elementary. And so those are unbalanced as it sits now, with 50 minutes between that first and second tier, 25 between that second and third tier, 45 between the third and fourth tier. In the afternoon, the 25-minute gap actually drops down to 20 minutes. And that amount of time is representative of how much time students have to leave their school buildings in the afternoon, walk to their buses, load, and for those buses to make the entire trip around the district to drop off their students. And so put simply, there is just not enough time available for the transportation department to be successful in delivering all of their students. With that in mind, we put together a couple of different potential options that would allow all of the students to have that time necessary. So in this first bell time scenario, we spaced out the time between tiers to a consistent 50 minutes between each tier. With Cumberland High School starting at 7:15 as one of the earliest schools within the state, we didn't want to push there. However, that space remained the same between the high school and the middle school. And then moving into the elementaries is where we start to see that impact, specifically with this fourth tier. And that would put those students starting school at 9:45 and ending school at 4:15. Now, in addition to moving those schools later, we also moved Cumberland Hill to that earlier tier, further balancing the total system and reducing the number of vehicles needed to complete those routes by 4. With that all in mind, with an average cost of about $100,000 per bus per year, simply adopting this model would save about $400,000 per year. And with additional routing optimization, those savings could be significantly greater. One of the additional requests that we got during this iterative process was, what if we put all of the elementary schools on one tier? And that is entirely possible. However, it does require at least 7 additional vehicles to do so, which at about $100,000 a year, once again, would add costs to the system. And so with the 50-minute gap, we have the potential to save about $800,000 a year. Bell time scenario 2 would actually cost the district an additional $700,000 to move all of the elementaries to one tier.
Chris, question for you.
Yes.
In model 1, also to achieve that, you'd have to have Ashton and community go later, yes?
Yes.
I know. I know last meeting we talked about that briefly. I think the committee, most folks here were not really receptive. I know it was, I believe, from 9:15 to 9:45. Is that accurate?
That is accurate, yes. One other question that came out of last committee meeting was, what if we just moved Cumberland Hill to an intermediate tier between that 3rd and 4th tier? And doing so would require additional vehicles. So that would also come with an increased service cost for the district for transportation. And so with that in mind, are there any questions about bell times before we hop into the redistricting portion of our discussion this evening?
Mike, are you? Okay, I just don't want to echo. Was any consideration made to moving the high school to be later and moving the elementary schools to be earlier?
So I'm going to hop back to this slide here. That is entirely possible. There are repercussions that we often see from that. So this particular model does not walk through that, but what we would see is impact with athletics, with food service on the operational side of things, and additional vehicles needed earlier in the day. So to answer your question, that wasn't what we modeled here, based upon our discussions about our constraints, parameters, and non-negotiables that we established with the transportation subcommittee.
Yeah, on that question there, I know back in like 2011, we looked at that. It was about an 8-bus add to move the high school back then.
Yeah, I remember that. But my question really is that, I don't know his last name, so I can't call him Mr. Chris. mentioned that, we're already one of the earliest school start times in the state for high school. And that's something that we've been trying to address for years and years because it's not good for our students. And if that is the case, why can't we run like a scenario with that, just so that we can see what the current costs are and the current, because 2011 to now is pretty far. So I'd like to see that.
So the cost shouldn't shift much. So at your peak use in this fourth tier, you're using 33 vehicles. And so those 33 vehicles are really what's driving your cost. So in terms of cost, additional cost, that's not going to be impactful. The downstream effect is other operational units and potential CVAs if they exist within the district.
I'm not sure. We didn't quite hear that.
Oh yeah. So at peak use, it's that fourth tier, and you utilize 33 vehicles to complete that. And so that 33 vehicles is actually what is driving your current cost of transportation. And so there would not be a cost reduction necessarily to moving Cumberland High School earlier or later. Your downstream effect would likely come in impact to operational components, so things like food service, to athletics, making sure that games align and that sort of a thing.
Again, just my question, and sorry to belabor this. I know that this is a long night. But my question is, if you move the high school later, right? Say you move the high school to 8:30, something like that. Doesn't that give you all of that time back for moving the other tiers earlier? Because again, elementary school students are typically, first of all, they're typically up at that point, having had 3 kids myself. But also, moving the high school later, shouldn't that conceivably open up some of those earlier times?
Sure. So what's not captured here with this start time at 7:15 are the, roughly 50 minutes ahead of that where we have students being picked up. And so if you move that tier 1 school to somewhere else, as long as you have that space there, conceivably it is doable. The issue now is the lack of time between that second and third tier that really drives some of the challenges with on-time performance. So it is doable to move that high school. That's not what's driving the cost.
So Chris, if I heard that right, you're saying we may be late in other tiers if we move the high school?
That is correct. So we need that 50 minutes worth of run time, regardless of where the schools fall in order, to successfully get everything there on time, assuming no routing changes.
So Chris, are you saying if we push the high school, we have to push someone else as well?
That is correct. That would be my assumption, yes.
So to follow that through, you would go high school 8:30, 8:15, then you'd do what? Have to move the first elementary tier later?
I mean, so if you moved your tier 1, the high school, to the 8:30, which is currently your third tier, then you would essentially just plug and play the second and third tier earlier. You would likely doing that, look, just back of the napkin math right now. Your third tier requires the fewest of the vehicles. Conceivably, that is doable without running the numbers directly that I have. I don't want to confirm this is absolutely doable or not, though. But feasibly, you could just move each of the other 2 tiers earlier and replace that with the high school, as long as you had enough time between tiers to successfully do those runs.
So just to follow that forward, then you're saying the elementaries would have to go where the high school went?
Correct. So that puts your, if you moved your middle school earlier, that puts your middle school there at 7:15. And then your elementaries there closer to that 8:05, which may cause those vehicles to be late to their third tier.
So I guess what some folks are wondering, can you model the high school move and bring it back to us over the course of the fall?
I can take a look at those numbers and share those that after this. Yes.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. If there are no questions, no additional questions about bell times, I'm going to hand the microphone over to Mr. Archer to walk us through our redistricting discussion.
Thank you, Chris. Good evening, everyone. Mike Archer, I'm a consultant with Transpar. We'll start with the middle schools, and I'll kind of run through the challenge and some considerations that were presented to us at the onset of this process. First and foremost, as Dr. Thornton mentioned, this has been a long time coming. Concerns around overcrowding at North Cumberland Middle School, and then the understanding that there's available space at McCourt to handle additional students. Some other considerations we were given is that to the degree possible, changes should not increase transportation costs, and boundaries should be contiguous, so there's no enclaves or islands where students are completely surrounded by another school of attendance and have to be bused into the other school. We understand this to almost always increase transportation costs. And so the recommendation that we have on the next couple of slides, but I'll highlight it here, is that the transport team selected an area to the eastern side of Cumberland, north of the current McCourt boundary and in the vicinity of I-295. It requires no additional busing, and it would include 62 currently enrolled students would be shifted from the North Cumberland boundary zone to McCourt. And then the next slide has a side-by-side map. On the left is just the current boundaries, and the stars represent the physical location of each school. And in the blue area, on the eastern side of town, is the area for consideration. And then the next slide zooms in on that particular area. And so this is just a description of that area. We tried to list as many roads as we possibly could. We can provide a full list after this meeting. And then at the bottom, you can see the new estimated enrollments. North Cumberland is just under 600 students at 599, and McCourt would be at 536. I'll just go through the whole presentation, and then we can go back through slides if there are questions about specific slides. So the next couple of slides go through the elementary schools. Again, the challenge as it was presented to us is that upon the completion of BF Norton, there will be significantly more space in that building, up to 530 students. Shifting this many students to BF Norton will have a ripple effect. It only has one school that borders it. It's Garvin. And so if you move students from Garvin, then you have to move them further up north in order to balance the enrollment numbers. Garvin, we understand, and a lot of the comments mentioned, it's physically located close to the boundary of BF Norton. It's just less than a mile away. And so we know there's a lot of walkers in the vicinity, students that don't utilize transportation. And so this was a priority in where we decided to draw the lines and to present this recommendation. They do not increase transportation costs. And again, the boundaries are contiguous, no enclaves or islands. There's 4 areas to consider in total. Each has their own sort of logical movement. The first area is currently zoned for Garvin, and it is recommended to be zoned for BF Norton. The second area is currently Ashton, now zoned for Garvin. Third area is Community, now zoned for Garvin. And then lastly, the Cumberland Hill area that is zoned for Ashton. This would be accomplished with no additional bus service or costs. And then similar to how the middle school slides were presented, we have sort of a zoomed out version of the entire town. The school's physical locations are highlighted in stars, and then each boundary is color coded. And hopefully everybody can see that well. I know some certain screens have different color preferences. But then on the right side, you can see the blue areas highlight the zones that I just walked through. And then the next and final slide is a zoomed in version of that, which highlights some of the roads that can hopefully orient everybody, and just kind of a description of what's going on. And then we can see the estimated enrollments of each school at the very bottom. So
Enrollments off, we can't quite see these from the up here.
Sure. Yeah. So the new estimated enrollments, Ashton would be 425 students. BF Norton would be 519. Community 461. Cumberland Hills 395, and Garvin's 416.
Can I just make one quick mention? So we received these into our public drive this morning, I believe. And so they are for everybody trying to follow along. They are also in our public Google Drive. So if you go to the Cumberland Schools website, you'll be able to actually look at your own copy of this because it's in the public drive for you all.
And as this process moves along, it was mentioned that this will be on the agenda for many meetings to come. We can provide other forms of this. We'll work with Dr. Thornton and the school committee to make sure that detailed maps or, parcel by parcel type information can be shared.
So Dr. Thornton, Dr. Thornton. So the next time we see these maps, they'll actually have street names associated with them, so it'll be.
Yes, we actually asked Transpar to have an index of street names by street number for each area.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Excuse me, sir, we don't talk. Sir, Sir, I'm sorry. Dear public dear, sir, sir. So so I can't talk, like, for many reasons. If you have any comments or questions, please feel free to email the school department and they will make sure to get back in touch with you. Thank you.
One quick note also, as someone who has been through the redistricting before, we have often asked for, input and questions, your questions you have. Dr. Thornton, the school committee we will answer anything that we possibly can answer for you. All of the information that we do have, we will also put in the public drive for everybody, but we also do want to make sure that we're answering constituents and making sure that, you're even though you might not be satisfied with the answer, you at least know what the answer is, and well in advance. That being said, we also I do believe that Dr. Thornton had neighborhood by neighborhood meetings in the last redistricting. Isn't that, or not in the last one, in the one previous?
I think early on, like
Early on, yeah. So, I'm not saying that that's something that we would do, is necessarily in the works for right now. I'm just saying that this is, again, a very long process and
It's just very preliminary. This is the first meeting of many. Mr. Bacon?
So as someone that is affected by this redistricting map, I'm extremely troubled to see this, and I hope that we do have an open forum where we can discuss this with the people that are affected by this, and we can come together with an idea or maybe something better than this. This can't be the only scenario, just like you're talking about the start times, like we're just talking about it for 5 minutes. There's a whole different scenario that we're coming up with. So I would like to see a little bit more of open dialogue so we can come up with something that will work for everybody, you know?
So again, Transpar will be on, the Transpar item will be on every agenda going forward until we vote, or at least once a month, if not both sessions each month.
Chris, anything else for the committee or Mike?
Not at this time, but if you guys share any questions that you guys might have, we'd be happy to take a look.
Any questions from the committee?
Oh, yep. So do you have any drafts of other scenarios that you came up with and rejected for whatever reason?
So we went through a process
We can't
over
hear
the
you.
past. Sorry. So our process went back several months. It started with sort of carving up the town that any area that's near the current boundaries in segmenting into sort of subdividing it into smaller areas and studying them and evaluating busing opportunities, walkers, things like that. If they've been redistricted in the past. I will defer, I guess, to Dr. Thornton as far as what we can share. And I mean, it's been, I wouldn't say there are definitive scenarios that we eliminated. It was sort of an iterative process that got us to this.
Certainly share what we did this week. Absolutely.
Okay.
I would prefer if you shared it all personally. I would.
Did you hear us?
I heard that we should share everything, and then so we'll start putting together a packet of all the committee meetings and presentations that we've given in the past.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Any other questions? From the committee? Okay. Thank you very much. We appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Next on the agenda is new business, student hearing. Student A, discussion of appeal denial of transfer request if requested by the parent. That did not happen. Next is discussion or vote on superintendent authorization to approve IXL pilot program for CHS special education and MLL in the amount not to exceed $595. This came to fiscal subcommittee. It passes subcommittee 2-0. Do I have a motion? Motion by Ms. Feather. Second by Mr. Dean. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? That passes 6-0. Discussion regarding the non-renewal process for non-tenured teachers. Mr. Bacon, I know you asked for this to be on the agenda.
Good evening. I was asked to put together a short presentation about the non-renewal process for our non-tenured teachers. You can just go to the next slide. So the first thing I want to talk about is what is a non-tenured teacher? A non-tenured teacher is a teacher who has been newly hired by the district. They are offered 1-year contracts for the first 3 years of their employment. After the third consecutive 1-year contract, if brought back for the following year, they would be considered tenured and would be given a permanent contract. So under Rhode Island General Law, 16-13-2, teaching services generally based again on the annual contract. We must notify non-tenured teachers of the non-renewal of their contract by March 1st if it is for performance, and by June 1st if it applies to budgetary reasons. In Cumberland, we include both of those reasons on our March 1st letter. We don't have our budget information any earlier than that. Each teacher can request a written statement of cause as to why they're being non-renewed and have the right to a hearing in front of the school committee. Rhode Island law permits school departments to non-renew non-tenured teachers if there's a better qualified teacher to fit the role. You can move on. So there is conversation about final effectiveness ratings on teachers' contracts. So the things that we look at when we are talking about non-renewing teachers is what are their certifications, what are their qualifications, what is their final effectiveness rating. But on top of that, there are other things that we need to consider when we're considering recalling a teacher, and that's the needs of the students, the duties, their professional responsibilities, collaboration, teamwork within their building, communication, reliability, professional relationships, school community support, building level energy and synergy, and overall fit for the district. So it's not simply an evaluation. We're kind of looking at the whole teacher and how they fit into each one of our schools. So things that aren't captured by the final effectiveness rating include paperwork, timeliness, following procedures, collaboration, communication, positive contribution to the school tone, and professionalism outside of the classroom. A teacher can be effective in the classroom and still not be the best fit for the continued employment within the school district. So we consider the whole employee and how they fit into the community. So for the district, some of the things that we look at are expectations beyond instruction. Again, collaboration, communication, responsibility, and support. The question is not simply, is this teacher effective in the classroom? A successful school requires educators who are not only competent instructors, but active contributors to the whole school community. The written notice that we send out prior to March 1st states, as a non-tenured teacher, the district believes we can find someone who will be a more effective teacher and or a better fit for the district. We are required to send this disclosure to employees prior to the March 1st deadline. We have the school committee meeting that generally meets the first meeting in February, but we always send it prior to the February 1st cutoff. That way, if there is a snow cancellation, we're still protected for that second February date. There's always teachers who want to have a hearing at the executive committee level, so we also need time to be able to schedule those at the 2 February meetings. They can ask for the discussion of their performance to be held in open meeting, although we haven't had that request. And they do receive a written statement of cause that's included in the letter that we send out prior to March 1st. So the next one is just the district process, kind of where it starts and ends. It starts at the building level review. The principals take care of evaluating overall performance, their evaluation and their final effectiveness rating, their duties, their collaboration and communication, student and building needs. Then it kind of comes to human resources, where we look at every teacher's certifications and qualifications. We might have teachers that hold more than one certification, so they may be qualified for other positions as more effective than a teacher that we have in the district. The contractual alignment, what year are they in the tenure process? Consistent documentation and appropriate notice. That then moves to the superintendent, who meets with the principals and considers the totality of the information available. What teachers do we have in the district, and who do we think is going to be a good fit for the district the next year? And he determines whether to recommend non-renewal. That recommendation is then sent to you. We come to that meeting in February. You review the superintendent's recommendation. We have a conversation, and you take the formal action of non-renewing each of the teachers on that list. So the legal and contractual requirements of the law are the annual contract framework. So each non-tenured teacher is given a one-year contract, renewable or not renewable based on the needs of the district. We need to provide a timely written notice prior to March 1st for performance and prior to June 1st for fiscal reasons, a statement of cause upon request, hearings and appeals, requirements within the teacher contract, and a good faith assessment. And we, once again, consider overall professional performance, evaluation, certification, student needs, professional responsibilities, collaboration, school climate, and overall fit for the district. Do you have any specific questions for me?
Thank you, first of all. That was great. And you answered a bunch of my questions, but there is one that I don't know if it's so I know, and this might be for Mr. Adams, but the state had took away the power from the school committee to hire and fire teachers, and that's more of the superintendent's. Okay.
So, first of all, we're not talking about firing.
No,
It's hiring.
Non-renewing.
Yep, hiring under the Education Accountability Act is now something that is done by the superintendent. But the power to non-renew a teaching contract and the power to dismiss a tenured teacher still is with the school committee. That is exclusively a school committee power.
Okay. So henceforth, why the paperwork says from the school committee. Okay. And then my second question was, which you did answer earlier for me. There's no like restriction upon, so you, the notice of non-renewal is sent to them in no later than March, I believe you said. And there's no restriction. They can still continue, teachers can still continue on with their duties until end of school, that year.
Correct. The teachers, whether we're bringing them back or not, continue on to the last day of school, continue teaching and providing the grades and the feedback to the students as they normally would.
All right, thank you. I appreciate it, Bonnie. Thank you very much.
Madam Chair, can I just, the issue of non-renewal has been something that has been confounding and difficult for school committee members and maybe for the public as well. And I have a couple of very short stories. I know it's late, but I was non-tenured for 8.5 years. I met my wife in 1989. She was not my wife. She became my wife in 1997 when we got married. Prior to that, she could walk, leave me, and be done with me. And there have been many times since 1997 that she has probably thought, I wish I could have done that. The analogy is a non-tenured teacher is kind of like I was. I was on not even yearly contracts, daily contracts. And then I got married. And we know, for those of us who are married, that is a contract that is supposed to be forever. Sometimes it isn't. Sometimes people get divorced. Luckily, I am not. But a divorce is kind of like what might happen with a tenured teacher and a school department. You might have to get divorced. There needs to be a good reason when they're tenured. There doesn't need to be any reason, really, when they're non-tenured. My wife could have said, see ya. So that's one way to think of it. The second thing that I'll share is about how it all works. This is not a football story, but it relates to a football player that we all probably know, Tom Brady. Tom Brady was the Patriots quarterback for many years. And in 2020, his contract was non-renewed. That's essentially what happened. The Patriots decided they weren't going to engage with him for a new contract. They didn't fire him. They didn't terminate him. His contract was coming to an end, just like every non-tenured teacher's contract comes to an end at the end of each year. And Bob Kraft, rightly wrong there sideways, decided that he was not going to renew Mr. Brady's contract. Mr. Brady went to play for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, won a Super Bowl in his first year. The story doesn't end there because the analogy is actually important there. One of the things Bonnie talked about is the standard for non-renewal, which is we can get a better teacher somewhere in the world. And it's actually, there needs to be a good faith presumption by the administrative team and the school committee that there's some person on planet Earth that can do a better job. It is that low. So that'd be like my wife saying, there is probably some guy who's better than Steve. And that's a pretty low bar given who I am. Tom Brady. Now, interesting point, Mr. Bacon. In 2020, the year that was his last year, Aaron Rodgers won the MVP. Mr. Brady did not. In 2021, the year he won the Super Bowl with the Bucks, Aaron Rodgers won the MVP as well. And so even Tom Brady, under the standard, a little bit subjective, is there somebody better on planet Earth at playing quarterback than you? The MVP voters said, yeah, it's Aaron Rodgers. So that's why that standard is so hard to meet for a non-tenured teacher. They really are, they're as close to an employment at will person as you can get in the public sector. Now, that doesn't mean they can be treated poorly or discriminated against or anything like that, but it's that 3-year period where you're determining, do we want to be married to this person? Because then you go to a very different standard as a school department where the public employer has the burden to demonstrate there is good and just cause to fire a tenured teacher. And that stuff doesn't exist for the non-tenured folks. So I just thought that little, hopefully the self-effacing, making fun of myself, most of which was probably true, would help put it in relief for everyone.
Thank you. And I like the football analogy. Any other questions? Yes, Mr. Dean.
When you say the school committee fires the teachers, when we non-renew the teachers for a better qualified, I don't remember having a name-by-name conversation about these teachers when they come into the executive session meeting.
The list of non-tenured teachers is prepared and put into the executive session drive. I do come into the meeting and you open it to questions about any teacher on the list.
Is that the 100 teacher one?
Yes, that's it. That was 101 teachers this year.
Well, you don't non-renew all 101 teachers. You non-renew, what you said, 7 this year, I think?
So all 101 teachers, contracts are non-renewed in March. And then through the teacher matrix process, most of them were recalled this year. We did not bring back 7 teachers for cause or because we believed we could find a better fit this year.
But, all right, so that 101 list of teachers, we're basically saying that we're okay if they don't come back. I guess that was where I was misconstrued with that.
When that meeting happens, that those non-renewed teachers do not have a contract. If they do end up coming back, it is with a new contract. So Tom Brady's contract elapses, and then over the summer, the Crafts have a change of heart. It's slightly different. It's more, the time is more constricted for you guys. But let's imagine a scenario where Brady doesn't get a contract with the Bucks, right? And the Crafts have a change of heart. And in August, they say, let's make a contract with Tom Brady. We probably could do better if we got Aaron Rodgers, but let's make a contract with Tom Brady. That is essentially what this recall process is that Bonnie is talking about.
So it's a non-punitive recall, just we can find somebody better.
And punitive, and neither is the non-renewal. They're not punitive at all.
Yeah,
They're
so
simply, we're not going to have another contract
What's
with
the
you.
process? Do we send them out with a letter of recommendation for another employer? Is there paperwork that goes with that process?
So they first get the letter from me stating that they're being recommended for non-renewal. After the non-renewal, they receive a different letter from me stating that you have been non-renewed. I do meet with each one of the teachers and explain the process in person. So I had 101 meetings this year explaining the non-renewal process to teachers. Then throughout the spring, the determination is made about whether or not we're offering another 1-year contract to that teacher. And through that process, If we are not offering the teacher another contract, I meet with them, with their building principals individually and discuss that with them. We part ways at the end of the school year.
But do they get pat on the back and a letter of recommendation, or they just, hey, here's a door?
We do not offer blanket letters of recommendation. They certainly are able to ask people that they work with if they would provide a letter of recommendation, but it's not something that we do as a district. When people call for verification of employment, it simply dates that they worked here.
How do you ensure that the better qualified doctrine is not used as a smokescreen? You know, if somebody was a disciplinary issue, or, you know, or had a disability, or was being like whistleblower retaliation at some point, and then you just kind of brush that under the table and say, no, we're just going to use the non-renewal process.
So one of the things that one of the slides showed is there's multi-steps to this. It starts at the building principal, vetted through HR, then sat with the superintendent, and then brought to the school committee. So those are certainly questions that if you had concerns about, you could ask us during that process.
I think my concern is that of the 101, we don't go through and meet with all 101 like you do. But it'd be nice to find out the 7 that are getting non-renewed, what, you know, if there was, you know, if there was a point of contention that they had, you know, I mean, I don't know, it just seems odd that we sign off on 101, and I know I've done it twice now, so I'm guilty for not having asked these questions, and I'm glad Mr. Bacon brought this up. I guess that's something we can talk about in executive session.
Absolutely on you guys to ask those questions. That's your job.
Ms. Goldstein?
Thank you, Ms. Vogel. Ms. Drezek, can you talk a little bit about the process of working with the CTA around developing this process that's outlined in the CBA? The non-renewal process.
The non-renewal process. The non-renewal process is kind of rooted in law, right? So we have this Rhode Island general law that we have to follow. Through the Cumberland School Department, their CBA, the CTA's contract, there is a matrix. And I don't think I could fully explain the matrix to you at this point in time. The matrix is how teachers choose jobs in the district, and it's based on their performance, their evaluation, their seniority, experience. And so every teacher is scored through the matrix. So we have teachers every year that are displaced for a variety of reasons. We close a 4th grade classroom at Garvin. And so that teacher, if their tenured, is now displaced, they don't have a home somewhere yet, their job has been closed. They have rights to choose from the jobs that were offered to 1-year contracts. So they have rights to choose any of the jobs that we had offered to a non-tenured teacher. So once those jobs are filled for the teachers that have been displaced, we can start re-offering the 1-year contracts or bringing somebody back as a tenured teacher into the open positions that are left over. Does that answer your question? Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions from the committee? Thank you very much for your time and presentation.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda is discussion and a vote to approve home instruction requests for the 26-27 school year. Do I have a motion to approve home instruction requests? Motion by Ms. Feather. Second by Ms. Goldstein. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? That passes 6-0. Discussion and a vote to approve resolutions. We, in fiscal sub, approved the following resolutions 2-0. SC-PR-08-2026-087 through 093. I make a motion to approve. Do I have a second? Second by Mr. Dean. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? That passes 6-0. Discussion and a vote to pay, approve payment of the bills. We voted in fiscal subcommittee 2-0 to approve the payment of the bills in the amount of $8,470.10. Do I have a second? Second by Mr. Dean. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? That passes 6-0. Dr. Thornton, do we need to go into executive session?
No, we do not.
Adjournment. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Motion by Mr. Bacon.
Second.
Second by Ms. Feather. All in favor? Aye.